Okay, so in this module, we went through and took a look at what was Kraken. We got the definition of cracking, what its purpose is for, and of course, both the dark side of the force and the white side of the force version of why we crack. We also went through and took a look at complexity. If you remember, complexity is just mixing up the password using uppercase, lowercase, numeric values, as well as special characters. And we don't just rely on complexity itself. Remember, it's in the length. We also went through and took a look at the architecture. Where is the passwords stored on the different operating systems? Remember Windows, it's stored on the local SAM database. If it's an Active Directory environment, then it's going to be stored inside of the Active Directory database, which is called the ntds.dit file. We also talked about where it's stored on the Apple platform as well as the Linux platform. In the Linux platform, remember, it's stored in the shadow file inside of the etc folder. We then went through and talked about the different techniques used for cracking. We talked about the dictionary attacks, the rule-based attacks, the syllable attacks, hybrid attacks, and of course my favorite, the brute force attack, yeah, as well as guessing. I really need to give up that accent, huh? Then we went through and took a look at the different types of attacks. Remember, we had active online attacks, which included things like keyloggers, Trojans, hash injection. We also had offline attacks where we could get the database offline and have all the time in the world that we needed to try to crack the password. Those included using rainbow tables, our reverse lookup tables. We also mentioned distributed network attacks, which we refer to as DNAs. And we also went and looked at passive online attacks, which is where we're not being active at all. We're just listening. So we're sniffing the network for attacks. Or we use a man-in-the-middle approach. So we intercept all the traffic and see if we can find a password going across. Then we went through and took a look at the non-electronic attacks, which included things like dumpster diving, shoulder surfing, and my favorite, and I think it's almost every hacker's favorite, is social engineering. Trust me, we have a whole course coming up on social engineering because of how prevalent this attack is. It's our favorite because it's the hardest to detect. You can't tell if I'm just being friendly and building up a conversation to find out about you or if I'm trying to drill for information. And then, of course, we went through and took a look at the hash. Again, this is how we store the password in kind of an encrypted format. But remember, some of the older hash technologies, like LM hash, aren't very secure and they're not utilized, but NTLM is still something that we can go after. Now, this subject is so vast that we couldn't do this in just one module. So we're going to continue the talk in the next module to discover other mechanisms that we can use for cracking passwords. So join me for more Kraken.